What is going on, all of you gaming awards enthusiasts out there in the world? I'm Mega Am, so thank you for watching this YouTube video. Whether you are a new or returning viewer, I appreciate you stopping by. And this is the annual reminder for the upcoming Game Awards, Video Game Awards show. This is happening in just under a week as of this upload in 2025. And this is just a reminder that this award show shouldn't be taken super seriously. And when I say that, I mean in terms of us on the side of the consumers watching this and like looking at the awards, right? Because there are some developers that do take this actually pretty seriously, which is kind of a problem, which I'll get into in a second here. But that's what they do. A lot of these, studios, they love to get awards and they get more recognition that way, and like that's great, and we should celebrate that. But I want to take a look at why, as a consumer, as a viewer who does not have stakes in these awards and just enjoying it for that purpose, like, we should not be taking this award show super seriously, because it has quite a few flaws that I want to kind of discuss today, and we can get into in the comments here a little bit. The biggest one for me that I've been thinking about recently is the fact that this award show is taking place at the end of 2025. Right, and this is not new. This is how the Game Awards has always been, this show, where it takes place at the end of the year, and yet they're calling it for the overall year. So what's happening is we have a situation like this year, for example, where Kirby Air Riders, Metroid Prime 4, among other games, I don't know if they would be included in the nominations, but they certainly are not being included now. The cutoff is somewhere in like mid-November, or early November even. And a lot of games, that's almost a sixth of the year. That's a big, almost 2 months, a big chunk of the year that you're missing out on. Now, what the Game Awards does is those games are then eligible in the following year. So, like, Metroid Prime 4 could be nominated, depending on how good it is, for categories in the Game Awards 2026, which to me just feels wrong, because now we have the situation where Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is a game that launched in December of 2024. That is up for several nominations this year, and it just feels wrong. It's a personal taste thing for sure, but if you're gonna call an award show within a specific year, like the Game Awards 2025, you would think you would encapsulate only everything in 2025. So to me, this show should be in like January or February. That's what the BAFTAs do. The BAFTAs, on the flip side, do have their award show after the fact, and I don't really understand it. I think the main thing, and this is what it's kind of tied to, right, is the fact that, like I said, the Game Awards is a flawed show in the fact that it is very much focused on the advertising, on the marketing. As some of you know, this is a common complaint that we'll get into now, right? There are so many ads, a lot of trailers, which is the real reason why us as viewers are watching, at least most of us are watching specifically for that. And so you have this show where most people are tuning in because of the advertisements. Case in point, where like they're looking there not for the adverts necessarily, but the trailers. They're looking for the big reveals, right? A lot of people probably don't care about the awards, to be completely honest, and so which is kind of a bummer, because you have the show called the Game Awards to begin with. That will never change. Jeff wants to pay the bills. He needs to pay the bills. And that kind of ties into what I said before with the timing of everything, because they want to have it right before the holidays, almost like a big marketing rush for a bunch of games. And so you have the situation where, yeah, exactly, you're stuck in this position where it's at a weird time of the year that honestly could be encapsulated better elsewhere, like the beginning of the following year, to really encapsulate the full year. But no, it's all because of advertising. No one wants their award show in like January or February, because at least for advertisers, they wouldn't care as much, right? So that's kind of the conundrum. They're almost two issues tied into one. And personally, I would prefer if they were to have it be, let me turn them down, the music gets tiny bit, sorry, like early the following year, to encapsulate the entire previous year. I really wish they did that. Would that change anything this year? Probably not. Probably not, although maybe, depending on how good Prime 4 is, maybe it'd be an action-adventure category, I don't know. But, like, I really just, yeah, I personally don't like how that's handled. That's a big issue of mine right now. There are plenty of other issues to factor in, especially when it comes to award nominations that a lot of people have issues with. Because there are some beautiful moments like this. I remember this guy from last year where he really got emotional getting into it, and those are the moments that make this all worth it. Like, overall, I would say this is a net positive show, but there are a lot of issues. Speaking of which, the way the nominations are done, because if we look into categories here, there is not any consistency. If we go into the nominees here, which I already voted for in a previous video, I do like how they handle esports content. Okay, content creator, first of all, these are just streamers. Streamers are not the only content creators in the world. So that's an issue with that award, or that category. But we've run into so many issues in previous times where it's like Sifu was nominated for best fighting game of the year. Sifu was not, like, it's tough because you call it fighting game, but is it really a fight? Like, it is a game where you fight. But when people say fighting games, they're not thinking of Sifu. Sifu is an action game. Because this year in Best Action Game, we have games that are similar, like Ninja Gaiden 4 and Shinobi Art of Vengeance. That makes a hell of a lot of sense to put Sifu in that category. But no, it was in Best Fighting Game. Which this year I feel like they did okay with. It's just like a lot of old games and collections and stuff, which is interesting to me. One big one that people are talking about is, and it actually set a record this year for the most number of nominations, and that is Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Because if we go to Best Indie Game, one of these stands out like a sore thumb, and that is Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Also, yeah, this one is 6. I almost forgot Silksong was there. One of these games stands out like a sore thumb, and that is Clair Obscur. Because what really is an indie game? What are we defining as an indie game here? Technical achievement, a game made outside the traditional publisher system. That, first of all, what is the traditional publisher system? Because Ball Pit is published by Devolver Digital, and they are a traditional publisher. Is that an indie game? I mean, personally, I'd say so, but are they? I mean, even Supergiant's their own way. But there is a publisher publishing Ball Pit. Like, it's not a self-published game or anything like that. I feel like we should have this category be best self-published game instead. I feel like that would be better. But I feel like it really depends on what you categorize an indie game as, right? This is a whole debate we can have. Dave the Diver was nominated for indie game a couple years ago, and that was published by NetEase, I think. Was it NetEase? I think so, right? Let me confirm this. Oh, sorry, Nexon, who's a big publisher, published Dave the Diver. A lot of people argue that shouldn't be indie game. Clair Obscur, I believe, is self-published. I think they had some funding from Microsoft, but also they have a ton of contractor work. This is not a small team making this game. Sure, the full-time employees was a small team, but there's a ton of contractors who are almost like left out of the recognition here. Should this game be an indie game? The budget's massive for Clair Expedition 33. Clair Obscur Expedition 33, I should say. I feel like, I don't know. It really depends on how you look at the word indie. It's changed, and there's no definitive term over the years. But people have been arguing that doesn't belong in there. Honestly, I'm inclined to agree. Especially because there's also Best Debut Indie where Clair Obscur is here. We actually had the developer of Megabonk come out and say they removed their game Megabonk and saying it's not a debut indie because they've made other games before. And I'm pretty sure Clair Expedition... oh yeah, it's published by Kepler Interactive. I'm pretty sure with Clair Expedition 33, a lot of those people have worked on other games before. So the thing is a debut game is just the first game under a different developer name? Because at that point, what's the point? It should be this is your first ever game. You know what I mean? There's little things like this. But then again, this category no one would care about. Well, the general, I should say no one. I should say the mass audience would not care about. They would care less even than they care now. Yeah, I'm trying to think of other ones that are a little contentious here. I don't love how they handle sports and racing. These should be two separate categories, even if it's like fewer nominations each. It does not make sense to lump all these together. I don't know. It's a lot of this feels shoehorned in, and they almost never change the categories. The only one I could think of in recent time that changed was Best Adaptation, because like back in, what was it, 2021, 2022, we started getting a lot of actually decent video game adaptations. I did not vote in this year because we have another inconsistency here, everybody, because remember how I mentioned the calendar thing? where the last couple months of games that cut off sometime in November, we had Indiana Jones be nominated for several categories in this year's The Game Awards. So if that's the case, where the hell is Sonic Movie 3? And this is a common complaint. If you're gonna do that, TGA, be consistent. Be consistent, because this just proves your inconsistency. Because most of these people said we're bad. I imagine Minecraft movie will probably... I didn't even vote for this category because I haven't watched any of these and I just don't really care to. So anyways, there's little issues here and there with nominees. Now, from what I've heard, in terms of people who have been on the jury for the Game Awards, I listened to a few different podcasts with a bunch of different outlets who are on the jury. Can we actually... I wonder if we can see who's on the jury. Oh, jury, there we go. Let's see if he mentions it here. Yeah, so like Easy Allies podcast was I think the big one I was listening to. Game Informer is here. Giant Bomb, GameSpot, MinMax. Hey, shout out to MinMax. They have a lot of outlets involved across the world too for the jury. And the problem is, from what I think it was Easy Allies, definitely don't double check me on this. But the problem is, first of all, I mean, not only are you limiting, you know, your pool of the jury based on what group specifically get chosen, but there is a good amount here. But the thing is that nominees can just be chosen like almost without thought. So it really comes down to like the 5 most voted on, or 5 or 6 most voted on picks from all the outlets, and they come together and decide which ones should be nominated. And so you have the situation where, like, if there's a common misconception about a game, let's say, you know, if people are saying Clair Obscur is an indie across most of these outlets, then it's going to get included in the category, even if it's not technically indie. But then again, indie's the weird category. That's not a good example. But what I'm saying is that, from what I've heard, it's really easy to mistake certain games for being picked for nominees. I mean, look at the Megabonk situation. That developer did not feel comfortable having their game in there in debut indie, yet a lot of outlets voted for it clearly, and then said, nope, I don't want to be involved, and removed themselves. And so now it creates this weird situation of, okay, now we only have 4 nominees. It creates a whole hullabaloo about what's going on. And so it's not great. It's not great. Anyways, that's enough about the nominees specifically. There are little annoying inconsistencies with nominations and stuff like that. Man, ads. Jeff, come on. Why are you throwing ads on my YouTube video over here? It's just, I don't know. It's inconsistent. That's what I hate about it. Like, little things that add up over time that just, like, are little nitpicks, sure, for certain categories, but there's always something every year. You know what I mean? And in previous years, I don't remember if last year was bad. They were really, I remember they were wrapping up. I think it was 2023. They were cutting people short for speeches. I think that might have been 2023 specifically. They were like adding a timer, and they were playing the music to usher them off, and that was pretty bad. I remember that being bad last year though. But yeah, it's one of those things that's like, I don't know. There's little things like that. My main thing is like the way they handle the timing of the show. I do not love. Like, I just genuinely do not love that in terms of all the timing and everything there. I'm gonna avoid this because probably arcane spoilers here. But like, I don't need Palworld here. It's so tough to find a good clip. Anyways, it's like there's little things here that add up over time, and like, listen, we can sit here all the time and nitpick little things. Like, I want these things to change. There's the whole situation with the future class system. Go read Alyssa Mercante's reporting on that. If you haven't already, that goes into depth about how they completely just butchered that whole thing and just kind of left it to die. You know, there's so many little things that you can complain about. And it's like, we want these to change. Will they change? No. No, nothing's going to change. It really comes down to if these things are so annoying to you that you don't want to watch the show. Personally, I'm only watching the show. I'm reacting to it live because I like doing that with the people here in this community on the YouTube channel. But when it comes to like certain little things that add up, like honestly, if it wasn't for live streaming, I probably wouldn't watch too much and I would just watch the highlights after the fact. Not only is it a slog and it's too long, but just the calendar timing of it all. I just, and little things with the nominations, little inconsistencies that there's always something every year. There's always something. There's never been a year, at least in the last 5 years of the Game Awards, where people have been like, this is fine. There's always something. Always something. So anyways, I just wanted to make this video, yes, to complain about the Game Awards, to criticize the Game Awards, because, you know, as humans were allowed to constructively criticize things and point out things that could be better. Does that mean things are going to change? Probably not. You know, it's one of those things that's like, please don't take the show too seriously. We can nitpick certain things and hope for things to be better, but instead what we can do is look at alternatives. So like the BAFTAs, that'll be happening sometime early in 2026 this year, or the Indie Game Awards, which is happening 1 week exactly after the Game Awards airs on December 18th. You know, there are other award shows we can look to instead of this one, or in addition to this one, and compare and see how they handle certain things. Because overall, like I did say before, this award show is still a net positive for exposure for developers to celebrate gaming over, like, not necessarily overall, because like there are certain trends of certain games winning or losing, and it's one of those things that's just like over time, like it is a net positive. It just, there's a lot of issues with the show currently that probably will never change because of like catering to marketing and advertisements, and that's honestly the root of most of the issues here, is that that's where the priority and budget goes. Now it's unfortunate, and we can always hope for better. But you know, if we're hoping for better and something that won't change, we can look to others for maybe better experiences. But anyways, that's why I wanted to just make this video talking about this stuff. So let me know your thoughts on this whole thing in the comments below. Please be constructively, leave constructive criticism if you're going to, because if you're just like, Game Awards is garbage, bye, I'll be like, why did you comment? Because plenty of people have done that in plenty of other videos that I've had. It's like, if you're gonna leave a comment criticizing the show, be constructive about it, right? That's all we're here to do. If you're gonna criticize, be constructive, and let me know what you do like and what you don't like constructively in the comments below about the Game Awards show, and if you will be watching or not this year. Otherwise, I will catch you all in the next video live stream, and until then, enjoy gaming. Let's at least celebrate developers that deserve it. I'll see you later.